My name's Lana, and I've spent most of my life in the background. That sounds dramatic, I know. But when you grow up with a sister like Celine, you learn how to shrink yourself. She's the kind of woman people orbit around. Beautiful, magnetic, always the favorite. My parents used to say she had star power, like that excused everything. Me, I was the quiet one, the reliable one, the one who cleaned up, kept peace, and blended in. Still, I worked hard. After college, I landed a job at a marketing firm and slowly built my way up. I wasn't flashy, but I was good. Really good. I stayed late, took on side projects no one wanted, and kept my head down. And then it happened. After 5 years, my boss, Mr. Hartley, called me into his office. "Lana, you've been killing it this past year," he said, sliding his glasses down his nose. "There's an opportunity I think you deserve." I held my breath. "We're opening a new branch in Seattle. I want you to head the marketing department." I blinked. "Wait, me? You've earned it. The raise is significant. Full relocation covered. I need your answer by Friday." I floated out of his office. That was it. The moment. My moment. The one I'd been waiting for. I couldn't wait to tell my family. We had dinner every Tuesday night at my parents' house. Some weird, sacred tradition. I was practically vibrating by the time I got there. My mom was stirring her famous tomato soup in the kitchen, and my dad was already pouring wine. Celine hadn't arrived yet. "You look happy," Mom said, peering at me. "I've got news. Big news." "Wait for everyone," she said, smiling. "Don't keep us in suspense." Celine showed up 10 minutes later with baby Leo on her hip, and her husband Cade trailing behind her like a golden retriever. We all sat down to eat, and I couldn't hold it in anymore. "I got promoted," I blurted out. "They want me to lead the marketing team at the new Seattle branch." My dad actually smiled. Cade raised his glass. But then I looked at my mom, and her smile faded. She glanced at Celine, whose face suddenly looked pale. "Seattle?" Mom repeated. "That's far, I know, but it's a dream opportunity. I've worked so hard for this." Mom put down her spoon. "Lana, this might not be the best time." I frowned. "What do you mean?" Mom looked at Celine again, and Celine suddenly looked down at her soup like it had secrets. "Celine's been struggling," Mom said gently. "Since the baby. Her doctor says she's showing signs of postpartum depression." My breath caught. "What?" I didn't know." Celine wiped a tear and whispered, "It's been hard. She needs her family," Mom said firmly. "Cade works long hours. They can't afford a full-time nanny. We were thinking they could move in here for a while, just until she stabilizes." And then she looked at me. "We need your help, sweetie. You're so good with Leo. And Celine really needs her sister right now." I felt the ground shift under me. "But the job." "There will be other jobs," Mom said quickly. "This is family. Family comes first." I looked at my dad. He avoided my eyes. Celine looked like she was about to fall apart. And in that moment, I did what I always did, what I'd been trained to do my entire life. I said yes. That night, I cried in my car for over an hour before I could drive home. I told Mr. Hartley I couldn't accept the promotion. I made up some excuse about personal obligations. He was disappointed but kind. I stayed in my current position, negotiated a small raise to feel like I hadn't completely lost. Celine and her family moved into my parents' house the following week. And I became the full-time babysitter, the unpaid emotional support animal, the walking, talking safety net. I told myself it was temporary. But even then, deep down, something didn't feel right. People always say you do what you have to do for family. But what if you're the only one doing it? After Celine moved back in with Mom and Dad, life shifted, fast. She slept most of the day, or claimed to. Meanwhile, I became a ghost with a purpose. My routine was brutal. Wake up at 6. Work a full 9 to 6 at the office. Come straight to my parents' house. Grab Leo. Feed him. Bathe him. Rock him. Diapers. Bottles. Teething rings. Repeat. Celine would be resting. Mom would be hovering over her like she was made of glass. And Dad. He mostly watched football and avoided drama. Every night I collapsed in bed with my back aching and my brain fried. But I told myself, over and over, this was temporary. "Celine just needs time to heal," Mom said. "Babies are hard," Dad added, shrugging like it explained everything. And for a while I believed it. Or at least I tried. But cracks started to show. It started small. One afternoon, I got off work early after a client meeting was canceled. I figured I'd swing by, surprise Celine, and maybe take Leo to the park. But when I walked in the door, the house was silent. No crying, no TV, just nothing. Leo wasn't in the living room. Celine? I called out. No answer. I checked the kitchen. Empty. Then the nursery. Nothing. Then I saw it. Her purse was gone, and her signature red heels were missing from their usual spot near the door. The same heels she hadn't had energy to wear in months. My gut twisted. She said she'd been too anxious to leave the house for days. Couldn't even go out for a walk. I texted Mom, "Where's Celine? I thought she wasn't feeling well today." She replied a minute later, "Doctor says going out occasionally is good for her. She's at a support group lunch." Support group, right? But the next day, I found a shopping bag from Zara in the trash. New tags. Not clearance. Okay, weird. Then came the day I saw her, through the window of a coffee shop near my office. I'd just gotten a cold brew and turned to leave when I spotted her sitting at a corner table with two other women, laughing like she hadn't faked a tear in her life. Makeup flawless, nails done, jewelry shining. She didn't see me, and for the first time, I didn't feel confused. I felt furious. That night at dinner, she laid on the couch again, dramatically sighing as Mom fluffed pillows around her. "It's just, today was so heavy," she said. "Should I warm the bottle for Leo?" I asked. "Would you?" "I barely moved all day," she said, rubbing her forehead like she had a migraine. I almost laughed, almost, but I didn't say anything, not yet. Instead, I started paying attention. I kept quiet, but I watched, noticed, logged every inconsistency. Her bad days always fell on weekends, when friends were in town, or when it was her turn to help with laundry. She somehow always had therapy on Saturdays at 11 a.m., the exact time of her favorite yoga class from before she had Leo. Then came the receipt that broke me. A glossy dinner tab from a 5-star restaurant downtown, hidden in the kitchen junk drawer. She'd been there on a Tuesday, the same Tuesday she'd cried at dinner about how she couldn't eat solids because of anxiety. I confronted Mom that night. "Are you sure Celine's still struggling?" I asked, gently. Mom's eyes narrowed. "Of course she is. She's going out. She's shopping. I saw her at a coffee shop with friends. She's doing her best. Mood swings are part of recovery. I just want to make sure we're not enabling her." Mom's face turned to stone. "Don't accuse your sister of lying. She's sick." So I backed down. But inside, something shifted. I stopped trusting. I stopped making excuses. I started researching. I stayed up till 3 a.m. reading every article I could find about postpartum depression. Reddit threads, medical journals, forums for new moms. I wasn't a doctor, sure, but something just didn't match up. Women with PPD often struggle to take care of themselves. Celine never missed a hair appointment. They feel guilt and detachment from their babies. Celine had zero trouble handing Leo off to me for 10-hour stretches without a second glance. She had time to recover, support, medication, money. But after a year, there was no visible change, unless she'd never really been sick. Then came the biggest red flag of all. One night at dinner, I mentioned a vacation. "I'm thinking of taking a week off," I said cautiously. "Maybe Hawaii?" "Hawaii?" Mom asked, her voice sharp. "I've been saving for over a year. Flights are cheap right now." Dad surprised me. "You should go. You deserve it." Even Celine nodded. "Yeah, you've been amazing with Leo." I should have felt relieved, but something about how quickly they agreed felt off. I booked it anyway, told everyone, put it on the calendar. But 3 days before my trip, I came home to something strange. Suitcases in the living room. Celine and Cade packing. "What's going on?" I asked. "Oh," Celine said softly. "Doctor's sending me to a specialized facility in Malibu for my condition." I froze. "Malibu?" I asked. "When?" "Tomorrow," Mom said from the kitchen. "Unfortunately, it overlaps with your trip." "Of course it does. So, who's watching Leo?" Mom looked at me like I was dense. "Sweetheart, we hoped you could postpone." I didn't yell, didn't cry. I nodded. Then I went to my room, canceled my trip, and ate $800 in non-refundable deposits. And when the house was quiet that night, I felt something I hadn't let myself feel in months. Rage the morning they left for Malibu. I didn't even say goodbye. Celine and Cade rolled out their designer luggage, gave a few dramatic hugs, and walked out the front door like they were heading to war. But I knew the truth. They weren't going to a mental health facility. They were going on vacation. Malibu was just the cover story. I'd seen the treatment center brochure Mom left out by accident. It wasn't a hospital. It was a luxury wellness retreat with yoga by the sea, cleansing rituals, and matcha lattes. I checked their Instagram. Sunsets, massages, white robes, and glowing selfies. Celine didn't look broken. She looked relaxed, smug even. And I was back on baby duty. Leo had no idea. He smiled up at me from his crib, babbled something that vaguely sounded like auntie, and reached for me with sticky fingers. I loved that kid, truly, but I wasn't his mother, and I wasn't a damn martyr. That night, after putting him to bed, I stood outside Celine and Cade's bedroom door. I'd never snooped before, never crossed that line, but I was done playing by rules no one else followed. Their room was spotless, too spotless, like it had been staged, but I wasn't interested in clothes or souvenirs. I opened the laptop on the desk. No password, not even a fingerprint lock. She trusted I'd never look. Idiot. What I found was, honestly, worse than I imagined. There were open tabs everywhere. Facebook, Instagram, her email, her messages. I clicked on her chat with Melissa, her best friend, and froze as I started reading. Melissa, still playing the depression card. Celine, of course. Lana eats it up. She's basically our full-time nanny now. Melissa, damn. How long do you think you can keep this going? Celine, another year at least. Maybe 2 if I play it right. By then, Leo will be in daycare and Lana will have moved on. Melissa, you're terrible, Celine, please. She's been jealous of me forever. This is just karma. Besides, she can afford it. We've saved so much on childcare this year. Melissa, your parents still on board? Celine, 100%. They think I'm fragile. Told them the new meds make me foggy. LOL. Melissa, girl, you're evil. Celine, the first prefer strategic. I couldn't breathe. I read everything, every lie, every manipulation. She even joked about faking panic attacks to avoid diaper duty. One message said, Lana's planning a trip to Hawaii. Gotta figure out how to ruin it without making it obvious. She knew. She orchestrated it. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Can you have dinner ready by 6? We're grabbing Chinese, but forgot to ask what you want. No, thank you. No. How are you? They weren't even bringing me food. That small, petty oversight snapped something inside me. I wasn't just being used. I was being mocked. I took screenshots of everything. Every message, every bank transfer, every calendar event. Then I shut the laptop exactly how I found it. For the next 3 days, I played along. Smiled. Fed Leo. Cleaned bottles. I even told Mom she looked nice in her new sweater. But quietly, I made calls. I called Stacy, my college roommate, and one of the few people who never made me feel invisible. I need a place to crash, I said, maybe for a few weeks, while I figure things out. Pack your bags, she replied. I've got wine and a spare room. I started collecting my pay stubs, child care cost breakdowns, bank statements showing $2,000 a month transferred to my parents. I was building a case, because I knew what I had to do. The night before Celine and Cade were due back from their retreat, I packed my things. Quietly. No drama. Just folded clothes and zippered bags. When I came downstairs, Mom was on the couch watching her murder show. Dad was in the kitchen stirring tea. Leo was already asleep. When they saw my suitcases, their faces froze. Where are you going? Mom asked. To live my own life, I said simply. You can't just leave, Dad said. Celine comes back tomorrow. I know. You're overreacting. I'm underreacting, I snapped. They blinked. I know everything, I said. The fake depression, the spa trip, the messages. I saw it all. Mom went pale. Dad looked like he'd swallowed his tongue. You went through her computer? Mom hissed. After a year of being your unpaid servant? Yeah, I did. Dad tried the guilt angle. This is family business. We didn't mean, you meant every bit of it. I cut in. You let her use me. You encouraged it. Lana, please, I'm done. You owe me $36,000 in cash and childcare services. You have 1 week to pay it back, or I go public. Mom's voice turned sharp. You wouldn't dare. You'll destroy your sister's marriage. She destroyed mine. With my career. My finances. My mental health. You're being ridiculous, no, I said. I'm being free. Then I walked out. Didn't look back. Didn't even cry. The night I left didn't feel like victory. It felt like oxygen, like breathing for the first time after being underwater way too long. Stacy was already waiting in her car when I stepped out of the house. She rolled down the window and didn't say anything, just reached out and squeezed my hand. That quiet support, it broke me. I didn't cry at the house, but I cried in her car. Ugly, shaking sobs, years of swallowed words, and fake smiles poured out like a flood. I didn't even know I was holding back. Stacy didn't tell me it would be okay. She didn't offer cliches. She just drove. Her guest room smelled like lavender and freedom. That first night, I slept for 10 hours straight. No baby monitor. No guilt. No one asking what I was making for dinner. When I woke up, I felt lightheaded. Not from exhaustion, but because for once no one needed me. It was terrifying and freeing. Over the next few days, I settled into a strange rhythm. I still went to work, still hit my deadlines, but I felt different. Like someone had cracked my ribs open and let sunlight pour in. I found an apartment near the office. Small, quiet, perfect. When I signed the lease, I just stood in the empty living room for a while, staring at the walls. Mine, all mine. No crying baby. No guilt-tripping parents. No favor disguised as obligation. Just me. Then the messages started. First, it was Celine. Lana, please talk to me. I didn't mean for this to happen. I was sick. I didn't know what I was doing. Please. Leo keeps asking for you. I didn't respond. Then came Cade. You blindsided us. Can we at least meet to talk? Celine's getting help now. It's real this time. We're sorry, Lana. Don't shut us out. I muted him. Then Mom started calling. Left 4 voicemails in a day. You've made your point. Come home. This family needs to heal. We forgive you. I laughed out loud at that one. They forgave me? Cute. Dad sent one long email filled with backhanded apologies, Bible verses, and a subtle threat about airing family business. I archived it. Then, exactly 1 week after I'd left, I got the notification. Bank deposit, $36,000. From Celine and Cade's joint account. No note. No emoji. No we love you. Just the money. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I replied with one message. I got what I needed. Don't contact me again. Then I blocked all of them. Phone, email, social media. Every door slammed shut. For the first time in my life, I chose silence. That weekend, I sat on the balcony of my new apartment with a glass of wine and no one else's laundry in the background. Stacy joined me with her dog and some pizza. We didn't talk about the past, just TV shows and the best grocery store wine under $10. It was healing, in a way therapy couldn't touch. But healing doesn't mean you stop hurting. I still woke up sometimes expecting to hear Leo crying. I still reached for my phone to check the family group chat, before remembering it didn't exist anymore. And, yeah, sometimes I missed them, but mostly, I missed who I thought they were. 2 weeks later, I bumped into Celine. Of course it happened in the grocery store, like some cosmic joke. I was picking apples when I heard it, Leo's voice. Emma. Emma. That was what he called me. Couldn't say Lana yet. I turned, and there he was, perched in a shopping cart, arms outstretched, eyes wide. He looked taller, talking more, his hair longer. My heart cracked, clean and loud. And beside him, Celine. She froze when she saw me, like she'd seen a ghost. We stared at each other. Her hand hovered near Leo's head like she wasn't sure whether to shield him or push the cart away. I didn't say a word, didn't wave, didn't smile. I just set the apple back on the shelf, turned, and walked away. She didn't follow. Back home that night, I sat on the edge of my bed for a long time, staring at nothing. I wasn't angry anymore. Not really. But I wasn't over it either. You don't just get over realizing the people who raised you chose convenience over truth. That your sister calculated your generosity like a math problem. That your entire value to them had an expiration date. But here's the thing. For the first time in my life, I matter to me. That's not something they taught me. That's something I had to teach myself. Work's been better than ever. Mr. Hartley recently hinted at a possible transfer to Austin. A new branch, new city, fresh start. This time, I didn't say I'll think about it. I said yes. Because I'm done waiting for someone to choose me. I'm choosing myself. There's a strange kind of peace that comes after a storm. Not the triumphant kind. The quiet kind. The kind that feels like waking up in a hotel room in a city you've never been to, safe, but unfamiliar, still carrying ghosts in your luggage. That's how the first month felt. I kept thinking someone would come banging on my door, that Celine would show up with Leo in her arms, crying on the porch, saying, "Let's fix this." Or worse, that she wouldn't show up at all. Neither happened. They stayed silent. So did I. I didn't tell many people what happened. I didn't want pity. Or worse, validation that turned into gossip. At work, I kept my head down, hit my deadlines, and focused on the Austin move. Mr. Hartley officially offered me the position 2 weeks ago. I accepted without hesitation, no checking with family, no guilt, no permission needed. It's wild how much time you gain when you're not emotionally babysitting adults. I started reading again, sleeping in on weekends. I bought a sketch pad, started drawing like I used to in college, not for anyone, not to be good, just for me. I even went to a yoga class, hated every second, never went back. Still, I tried, baby steps. But healing isn't just about filling your time with hobbies. It's about facing the parts of yourself you've been avoiding. So, yeah, I made an appointment. Therapy. Just saying that felt strange, like I was breaking some family rule. Growing up, therapy was for people who couldn't handle their own problems. That's what Mom always said. But I was done playing by her rules. My therapist, Dr. Keating, was soft-spoken but sharp. She didn't coddle me, and I didn't want her to. On our third session, she asked a question that stuck in my chest like a splinter. When did you learn that love had to be earned? I didn't know how to answer. Because I always believed that. If I wasn't useful, I wasn't lovable. If I wasn't giving, I wasn't worth keeping. That belief, it shaped everything. My relationships, my career, my silence. And Celine, she knew it. She counted on it. One night, Stacy and I sat on the floor of her apartment eating takeout sushi and watching trash TV. She paused the show during a commercial and looked at me. Do you ever miss them? I didn't need her to clarify. She meant Celine, my parents, the unit I used to call family. I sighed. I miss the idea of them, I said. Who I thought they were, who I hoped they could be. But not the reality? I shook my head. No, the reality was suffocating. We clinked chopsticks like wine glasses. No toast, just understanding. 3 days ago, I got a letter, like an actual letter. No return address, but the handwriting was familiar. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a small Polaroid. The photo was of Leo, holding a crayon drawing. Me, apparently. Labeled Emma in crooked toddler letters. The note said, "He still asks for you. I won't contact you again. But I hope you know, you mattered to him. S. No apology. No ownership. Just that." I stared at the picture for a long time. Part of me wanted to rip it up. Another part wanted to cry. But I did neither. I placed it in a box with a few other memories I wasn't ready to destroy. Not because I forgave her, but because letting go didn't have to mean erasing. Dr. Keating says forgiveness isn't for them. It's for me. I'm still working on it. Some days I feel fine. Empowered, even. Other days I see a little boy in the park chasing bubbles, and my chest aches in places I didn't know could hurt. But I don't reach out, and they don't either. Maybe that's the truce we've silently agreed to. No more pretending. No more lies. Just distance. Last night, I packed the last box in my apartment. The Austin move is in 2 weeks. I labeled it Lana 2.0 because I'm not going to Seattle this time. Not out of obligation. Not to save anyone else. I'm going because I want to. Because I deserve to. A new city, new walls, no ghosts. And maybe, just maybe, I'll start building a life that doesn't revolve around being needed, but being known. Moving day felt surreal. There was no big fanfare, no goodbyes or hugs at the curb. Just me, a rented U-Haul, 3 suitcases, and a playlist I made called Starting Over. The drive to Austin was quiet. Long stretches of road and a lot of thinking. I thought about the girl I used to be, the one who apologized for everything, who shrunk herself to make room for everyone else's needs, who said yes when she wanted to scream no. That girl deserved better. So I gave her a new zip code. My apartment in Austin isn't fancy. It has mismatched floors and a weird creaky pipe under the sink. But it's mine. I painted one wall burnt orange, bold and slightly ridiculous. I bought plants I'm not qualified to care for. I started making pancakes on Sundays just because I can. And the silence? It's healing now. Not heavy, not lonely, just mine. I joined a local book club. Not because I want friends, though that might happen, but because I finally have time to read stories that aren't about other people's needs. At work, I'm thriving. I have a real team now. One that respects me, listens when I speak, and doesn't expect me to carry everything alone. I'm not Celine's little sister here. I'm just Lana. And for the first time, that feels like enough. Some nights, I still lie awake and think about Leo. I wonder if he remembers me, if he misses our bedtime songs, or the way I used to draw silly faces on his napkins. Sometimes I imagine him older, asking questions no one wants to answer. But then I remind myself, I gave him everything I had, and now I'm giving something back to myself. That doesn't make me cruel. It makes me human. 2 weeks ago, I bumped into someone at the farmer's market. Her name's Eliza. We both reached for the same loaf of sourdough and laughed. Simple. Random. We got coffee afterward. She's funny, smart, kind of chaotic in the best way. She works in tech but paints in her free time. I told her a little about my past, not everything. Just the edges. She didn't flinch. Didn't pity me. She said, "Sounds like you finally chose yourself." I didn't realize until then. No one had ever said that to me before. I don't know where things will go with Eliza. Maybe it's something. Maybe it's just a new friend. But I'm open. And that, in itself, feels like a victory. A few days ago, I got another letter. Same handwriting. Inside was a photo of Leo's second birthday party. He was covered in cake, wearing a paper crown, grinning wide. The note was one sentence. He's happy. No signature. No apology. But for the first time, I didn't feel angry. I didn't cry. I didn't respond either. I just tucked it away in the same box as the first picture. Not out of sentimentality, but as a reminder that I did what I could, that I walked away when it mattered most. That healing doesn't require forgetting. Sometimes healing looks like bubble baths and therapy. Sometimes it's walking past the baby aisle at Target without flinching. And sometimes it's saying nothing when you finally could say everything. I've been journaling again, drawing too. Not to process pain anymore, but to explore possibility. I'm not who I was a year ago. I'm not the family doormat, the fixer, the emotional landfill. I'm not someone's second choice. I'm not someone's silent sacrifice. I'm Lana. Full stop. And I've finally learned the difference between being needed and being loved. So if you're reading this and you've ever felt like the invisible one, the always available one, the one who keeps the peace while everyone else wages war, I hope you know, you're allowed to choose yourself. You don't have to burn out just to keep everyone else warm. You can say no, even when they call you selfish. You can leave, even when they say family is everything. Because sometimes, peace is more powerful than loyalty, and survival isn't betrayal. It took me 30 years, a fake diagnosis, $36,000 in lost income, and a canceled vacation to realize it. But I'm here now, starting over. Lana 2.0. No more guilt, no more games. Just me, building a life I don't have to recover from.